Hey everybody, Jayne Sanders here. I want to do something different for this newsletter, December 21st. Um, Heck, it's the holiday season, and I learned a couple of weeks ago while sharing with you all about Comet, as sad as that was, and I knew this, I love talking about horses, and I have so many stories and so many experiences that people really seem to enjoy when I share them. So I want to try this for a newsletter and share one of my favorite horse stories with you. And then very quickly about that horse, tell you if that horse were a person, what I would see in their hands. So of course it has to tie to hand analysis, hands and horses. So anyway, this would have been like in 2002, maybe 2003. I used to do a lot of volunteer work, and that's where I learned 80% of what I know about horses. At a ranch in Malibu. I lived in Southern California at the time, outside of Los Angeles, and I went to this ranch every weekend, usually both days, and took rides out, learned about horses, tacked them up, cleaned them, groomed them, everything. Loved it. And the ranch fell apart. The woman had to sell all the horses. It was really heartbreaking. And four of my friends and an acquaintance who leased some of the horses or owned them that were boarded there, moved 5 horses over to the other side of the canyon to a private boarding facility. So there were just 5 horses there. And the one owned by my acquaintance, I rode for her. I took care of him. I needed a horse to ride because the ranch wasn't there anymore. And my friends were riding, and she was very, very busy and just said, wonderful, you ride him whenever you want. If I'm going to ride him, I'll let you know. You pay his shoeing and his vet bills. So it was a great deal. And this was a great horse. Well, anytime you start working a lot with a horse, you can't help but fall in love for the most part. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, but anyway. So got very bonded with this horse. And 6 months after that, while I was still riding him and with my friends in the canyon in Malibu, a friend of ours at another boarding facility said, you guys got to try this animal communicator. I'm like, animal communicator? You ask a question and they look at the dog and arf, 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 arf. I mean, I'd never heard of it. And she said, it's amazing. They communicate with the horses and, tell you what they're thinking. You can ask questions and whatever. I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. And a few other of my girlfriends were all for it. So we brought this animal communicator, whose name was Janet, out to the boarding facility, to the barn, we call it. It was amazing. So keep in mind, so let's see, 98, 99. So for 5 years, I had worked with all these horses, and this woman had 30 horses on the ranch where I took out rides. I knew them all. They all had different personalities, just like dogs, just like cats, just like us. And when she talked with these other horses, not only was the information that she was revealing that they were saying accurate, it was in the words that those particular horses would use. It was mind-blowing. And no, she didn't whinny or neigh. It's all done telepathically. And I said, but horses can't speak English. How do they know what you're saying, and how do you know what they're saying? And she said, well, obviously a higher power, God, spirit, source, universe, whatever word you want to use, comes in and translates. She said they sometimes send me pictures, but I mean, it was just mind-blowing. And Comet, actually, I didn't own him yet, and he was the second horse that she talked to, and we just put her in a wicker chair in the stalls, and the stalls were 12 by 30. and 12 feet of the 30 was covered. So they were in and out stalls, big stalls, bigger than most horses get. So 30 feet long, that was pretty nice. And we put her chair in up front near the gate. And Comet, who was very wary about strangers, and even people he knew, if he didn't know them well, he would run to the back end of the stall. Well, she sat down. He ran up to her and put his muzzle on her head. And she said he just started yelling, "I need to be busy. I need to be busy." And that is true. Comet was the kind of horse that really needed a job. He needed to be kept busy. And we used him all the time for rides because of that. And then he said, "I want to go into the mountains and find her." And Janet looked at us and said, "He wants to go find her. Who's her?" And my friends and I kind of looked at each other and felt really sad. And he said again to her, "I need to go find her. I want to go look for her." Well, Comet was gelded late. He had sired at least one foal. And there was a mare at the ranch that was his daughter. And he and his daughter were best friends and had been for 12 years. And when the ranch fell apart, they were sold separately. We knew that's what he was talking about. And Janet confirmed that. As a matter of fact, he colicked the day that he was taken to the new place. And he didn't have another colic before then and didn't have another one since until last spring. So 15 years without a colic. Anyway, that's how upset he was. So the accuracy was just crazy. And as Janet's sitting there talking with Comet or communicating, Breeze, an Arabian horse in the stall next to her, was hanging her head over the rail right by Janet's head. I mean, the horses were just so attracted to her. And all of a sudden, here's Breeze's head hanging down. All of a sudden, Janet looks back and then waves her hand over Breeze's face, and flies flew off. It was in the summer and it was hot. And Janet said that Breeze yelled in her ear, "Get these things off my face." And all of a sudden, just like this. So she heard that. I mean, it was just amazing. We couldn't discount it anymore. And then she got to the horse that I was riding. I didn't tell her at first that I didn't own the horse. Shame on me in a way, because ethically I was afraid she wouldn't do it. No, ethically it was shame on me, but I was afraid she wouldn't do it. And I really wanted to know what this horse was thinking. So she said, "Well, what do you want to know?" And I said, "Well, I want to know if he's happy. I want to know if he hurts anywhere. I want to know what he's afraid of." And she did her thing and turned and looked at me and said, "Well, he said he's never been this happy in his life. That yes, he hurts because he used to be a champion Western competitor and he's got arthritis, but he doesn't care because he's so happy. And what he's afraid of is never seeing you again." And I was like, "Well, tell him I'm not going anywhere. I'm crazy about this horse." And so she talked to him and told him that. And he said to her again, "The only thing I worry about is never seeing Jayne again." Well, first of all, I was so moved. I had no idea he felt that way. He wasn't very outwardly demonstrative of his affection. Some horses are, some aren't. And I said, "Well, tell him I'm not going anywhere." And then I had to come clean. I said, "Janet, he's not my horse, but I'm kind of leasing him. I'm paying for his shoeing and his vet. And the woman is very happy with him. She was here last week and said he's never looked better. So I can't imagine there being a problem. But, if I don't see him, it'll be because of Robin, not because of me." And he said to Janet, this horse said to Janet, "If Robin takes me away from Jayne, I think I might die inside." Well, by then tears just rolling down my face. And I said, "I haven't heard a thing. Nothing's going to happen. Don't worry. Tell him I love him. I'll take good care of him." I thought he'd say he was afraid of mountain lions or rattlesnakes. We had those sometimes. Well, we had rattlesnakes all the time, but every once in a while a lion, although we never saw one. But no, he was afraid of not seeing me again. So anyway, that was on a Tuesday. Saturday, when I went back to the barn to ride, the stall was empty. Robin had come and taken the horse. I was dropped to my knees. I mean, it shocked me so much, and I was so sad. I couldn't believe she didn't tell me. I had no clue. The boarder had no clue. She didn't tell the boarder. And I mean, I was sobbing. And of course, the first thing I do is call Janet. And luckily, I caught her. And I said, Janet, he's gone. And she just couldn't believe it. She said, are you kidding me? And I said, no. I said, can you connect remotely? And she goes, oh, yeah, that's how I do most of my work. So she does her thing. And she said that he told her 2 men came before dawn. And he knew Robin was behind it because he could hear them talking about her, the 2 men. And he said he tried to get away. He went to the back of the stall. He tried to keep them from capturing him, but he didn't want to hurt them. And he kept waiting for me to come and save him. Ugh, that hurt. But that they took him, and he was an hour and a half away and at a beautiful place, but he didn't care. There were 3 horses in his corral, but he didn't want to make friends. He felt in despair. And I just, I said, well, tell him I will try to find him. There are gazillions of horse boarding places in Southern California. I mean, I knew it was going to be very difficult. And I said, tell him I'm thinking about him. And he told her that he could feel me thinking about him and to keep doing that, to try to keep us connected, and that we would find each other. So, I mean, I tried. There are so many places. I called so many. I cried myself to sleep every night, and I tried to obviously call Robin as well. She wouldn't answer my calls. I was at a loss. And one of my friends who boarded at that barn offered to loan me the money to buy him. But Robin wouldn't answer the phone, so I couldn't get to her. And after several weeks, I had to let go. I got to a place where I was just so grateful for the time I had with this amazing horse, that I got to know him and got to ride him all the time, and just figured that eventually I'd find, the silver lining. That was in September. And, I would just ride a couple of the other horses sometimes. Anyway, I got over it. And in December, all of a sudden, all that sadness and grief came back again. It really surprised me. And I was crying again. And I'm like, what is going on? I thought, well, I'm going to try to call Robin again. What the heck? So that is my cat playing with the blind strings. So I called Robin again, and she answered. I couldn't believe it. And I said, Robin, is Jayne. Oh, Jayne, I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you so badly. I was in a dispute with the boarder, and I didn't want her to know I was coming. I didn't want anybody to know I was coming. And I wanted to say, well, why the hell didn't you take my call 3 months ago? But I didn't. I'm like, oh. And she said, but it's so weird that you're calling me right now, because I'm thinking about selling my horse. My breath caught, and I'm like, why? And I realized it was him reaching out to me intuitively and make me feel really, really sad again, to reach out to Robin and try to get him. So I was such a sucker. She charged me 4 times what he was worth. She knew my heart was way too involved. And I met with her brother at a restaurant way far from where I live. They wouldn't tell me where the horse was. They were afraid, I guess, I was going to go stealing back. I don't think so. And I called our local horse hauler, peach of a guy who used to work for Ronald and Nancy Reagan. And by the way, says they were just wonderful, wonderful people, salt of the earth. And I called him and I said, Johnny, I need you to pick up a horse this afternoon, but I don't know where it is. I won't know until lunch. And he said, oh, don't worry about it, Jayne. I got a haul in the morning. I'll just pull over on the side of the road. I can see Elmer back there. And wait for your call, and I'll go get him. I said, well, I just know he's an hour and a half away by trailer. Not sure if the animal communicator was that accurate in interpreting what the horse said, but anyway. So we did the business at the restaurant, found out where he was, which, by the way, an hour and a half by horse trailer. An hour by regular car, but hour and a half by horse trailer. So I called Johnny. I said, he's Fair Hills in Topanga, and call me when you're on the way after you've loaded him up. So I'll meet you at my barn. And I was driving home, and I was crying, just joy and relief and this amazing love that I felt. And I was talking to the horse, and I kept saying, you're coming home. I'm coming to get you. It's not me, it's Johnny, but get in the trailer. Just get in the trailer. Well, I'd never seen this horse trailered before. I didn't know if he trailered or not. Johnny called me and said, he says, Jayne, it's the strangest thing. He had a twang. He said, I pulled up to that corral. He was at the gate waiting for me. He said, and I had to stop him because when I opened the gate, I didn't have time to get the ramp down. He kept trying to get in the trailer. And an hour and a half later, I got my horse. And I don't think you've heard me talk about this horse, but this one was Beau, Beau. And Beau was the horse of a lifetime. He and Comet became best friends. And when I moved to Illinois, back to my hometown to help with aging parents, the two of them went with me. Beau didn't make it to Colorado. He was arthritic, as he said. He was 28, and his knee was really, really bad, and he would lay down, as most horses do, every night and not be able to get back up. And after several emergencies, I finally just had to call it quits, and I knew he wouldn't be able to handle the trailer ride from Illinois to Colorado. It's very tough on horses. So I had to put him down before I moved to Colorado. But he was a big chestnut quarter horse, and what a great, great horse. That's how I got my Beau. So I think this is a fascinating story. And by the way, on my website, purposewisdom.com, which will take you to precisionwisdom.com. But anyway, if you go on the menu across the top under About Jayne and drop down to Equine Friends, there are a lot of photos and a few poems about the horses that I have known. And the poem called Reunite is about Beau and I, and about this experience of him being taken by his rightful owner, but he felt kidnapped. It took him several months to come down from the trauma of being stolen from his friends suddenly. Horses are so much more emotional than people realize, and that some people ship them around like sports equipment, and they never create bonds with people because of that, or with other horses because they know they're going to be leaving. Anyway, so if Beau were a person, what I would see in his hand for sure is a heart line called a hermit, which what you can see of mine is a hermit. Starts under the pinky and then stops before it gets halfway to the index finger. Stops usually underneath the middle finger or just past it. Somebody with a hermit heart line is, they keep their deepest feelings close in. Beau wasn't very outwardly affectionate. They are very loyal. Man, was he loyal. On the master path, they're very reliable. A lot of integrity. And Beau was, I could put anybody on Beau. I could put little kids on him. I could put brand new riders on him. He was just so trustworthy and reliable and solid. He didn't want alone time. No horse really. Well, that's not true. I have known a horse that did not like other horses and did best being alone, but that's really the exception to the rule. He also would have And freedom was very important to him too, and that's why it was so hard on him when he was taken against his desire. He also would have, obviously, intuitive markings, as all horses would. He could send pictures to Janet. He could communicate to Janet. He sent information to me that brought all that grief back to trigger me to call Janet. So that's what I would see in Beau, a couple of the things, a hermit heart line and a lot of intuitive markings, probably like a line of clairvoyance, which is access to very deep, very powerful intuition. Spiritual teacher, helping people through crisis of meaning, and horses do that, help people through tough times, and he certainly did. So this went a lot longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoyed the story. I'll put in the, well, you won't know it till you get this far anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks for listening. Have wonderful holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Take good care. Much love to you. Bye-bye.